Hello and welcome to What the F*** Just Happened Today, your essential guide to the daily shock and awe in national politics. I'm Joe Amditis. Let's get to it. It's Thursday, October 12th, 2023. Welcome to day 996. The House of Representatives remains leaderless, and Steve Scalise doesn't have the 217 Republican votes needed to become Speaker. Despite securing his party's nomination over Jim Jordan in a conference-wide vote, at least 12 Republicans have publicly refused to back Scalise, and more have expressed frustration or skepticism about his leadership. A 2-hour, closed-door Republican meeting was described as unproductive, and no candidate is close to garnering the 217 votes needed to win the gavel. Without a speaker, the House is paralyzed and unable to move forward on any major items, including spending legislation and foreign aid. Meanwhile, federal prosecutors indicted Senator Bob Menendez in New Jersey on charges of conspiring to act as an illegal foreign agent of Egypt while serving as the chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. The superseding indictment comes 3 weeks after a federal grand jury charged him with accepting hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes in exchange for his political influence. The new indictment alleges that Menendez provided sensitive U.S. government information and took other steps that secretly aided the government of Egypt. Moving on, the United States urged Israel to avoid civilian casualties as the Israeli military says it's preparing for the next stage of the war to change the reality in Gaza. Following attacks by Hamas, which killed more than 1,200 people, Israeli military officials said they're now ready to go on the offense within Gaza. Israeli officials say they plan to capture or kill all of Hamas's leaders, destroy the group's militant units and underground tunnel network, and make it impossible for Hamas to govern Gaza. Israel has called up 360,000 reservists who have started massing near the borders with Gaza for an imminent ground invasion. Following a meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken condemned Hamas's reign of terror while calling for every possible precaution to avoid harming civilians, saying, "We democracies distinguish ourselves from terrorists by striving for a different standard, even when it's difficult." Netanyahu thanked Blinken for the support and then called for moral clarity, saying Hamas should be crushed and spat out from the community of nations. So far, at least 1,537 Palestinians have been killed after 6 days of Israeli airstrikes on Gaza. An additional 6,612 Palestinians have been injured. More than 338,000 Palestinians are currently homeless and in search of safety, but Gaza's exits into Israel and Egypt are both closed. Israel has also cut off supplies of electricity, food, water, and fuel as part of its complete siege on Gaza, a tactic considered a war crime under international law. Israel said there would be no pause in the siege unless Hamas releases the roughly 150 hostages who are believed to be held in Gaza. The United Nations, meanwhile, warned of a developing humanitarian disaster in Gaza, where the health system has begun to collapse, food and water are quickly running out, and residents are without reliable electricity. And finally, U.S. inflation rose 3.7% from a year earlier, reinforcing the Federal Reserve's intent to keep interest rates high. On a month-to-month basis, prices increased 0.4% from August to September, compared with a 0.6% rise from August to July. The Bureau of Labor Statistics says housing prices, which rose 7.2% from a year ago, were the largest contributor to September's figures. Fed officials have signaled that they are likely to leave interest rates unchanged in November, but what happens at the December meeting is less clear, with a chance of no change at around 60% and a 40% chance that we'll see another rate hike. That's all for now. You can find the links and sources for all of these stories on the main website. And as always, visit whatthefjusthappenedtoday.com for the latest news and headlines. Until next time, I'm Joe Amditis.